Title: The Man Who Heard His Own Voice Call from the Other Room. The Voice in the Hallway. If you think you're brave enough to listen through the night, hit subscribe, drop a like, and remember, not all voices in your home belong to the living. The first time Daniel heard it, he thought it was an echo, just the acoustics of an old Texas house shifting in the wind. He had moved in with his wife, Emma, barely 2 months ago, excited to finally own their dream home in the countryside outside Austin. It was quiet, too quiet. That night, as rain tapped gently against the windows, Daniel was sitting in his living room scrolling through his phone when he heard a voice call from down the hall, soft, clear, unmistakable. Daniel. He froze. It was his voice. He turned toward the hallway, heart pounding. Emma? No response. Just the steady tick of the clock on the wall. He stood, every nerve in his body tightening as he called out again. The house swallowed his words, leaving only silence until the voice came again. Daniel. Same tone, same pitch. The sound came from the spare bedroom, the one they hadn't unpacked yet. He slowly walked down the hallway. The air grew colder with every step. When he reached the door, he hesitated. Something about it felt wrong, like the room was waiting for him. He turned the handle. The hinges groaned as the door creaked open. The light from the hall barely touched the inside. The walls were empty except for faint, uneven scratches near the baseboards, as if something had tried to claw its way out. Daniel. This time, it was behind him. He spun around, nothing. By the time Emma came downstairs, she found him pale and shaking, flashlight in hand, whispering, "Someone's in the house." But when she checked every room, every lock, every window, everything was sealed. For the next few nights, the same thing happened, always between 2:30 and 3 a.m. A voice his, alone and calling softly from different rooms. Sometimes from the kitchen, sometimes from upstairs, sometimes from right behind him. He tried to laugh it off at first, blaming it on exhaustion. But one night, Emma woke up to find him standing in the hallway, staring blankly into the dark. When she touched his shoulder, he flinched. "I heard myself," he whispered, calling my name from the kitchen. She tried to reassure him, stress, overwork, imagination. But Daniel's hands trembled. "Emma, it was me. It sounded exactly like me." She noticed something else that night. The spare bedroom door was open again. She swore she'd closed it. By the 5th night, Daniel decided to prove it. He set up an audio recorder in the living room before bed. He left the lights off, the door slightly ajar. At 3:04 a.m., he heard it again. Daniel. This time, closer. He didn't move. Just watched the hallway as the air turned thick, heavy, and cold. The lights flickered and then went out completely. Footsteps echoed slow, deliberate, coming down the hall. He grabbed the recorder and ran upstairs. The next morning, he played it back on his laptop. At first, nothing but static, then faint breathing, and then a whisper. "Daniel." He froze. It was his own voice, but the next line chilled him to the bone. "I can see you." The screen went black. When he looked up, the hallway door was open again, and from inside the dark room, his own voice called softly, "Daniel, come here." The next morning, Daniel sat motionless at the kitchen table. eyes fixed on the recorder. The air felt heavy, like the house itself was holding its breath. Emma moved around quietly, trying not to speak, trying not to remind him of the thing he heard last night. But silence only made it worse. Every tick of the wall clock echoed like a heartbeat. He finally exhaled. "I want to listen again." Emma shook her head. "Daniel, please. You haven't slept." He pressed play. Static. A few seconds of white noise, then the same whisper. "Daniel." He swallowed hard. "That's me. That's my voice." The audio hissed, crackled. A sound like scraping wood filled the room, followed by a faint thud, almost like footsteps moving across the living room floor. Then a whisper, low and distorted. "Not your voice." Emma gasped and covered her mouth. Daniel froze. The voice, it wasn't his. Not exactly. It was deeper, hollow, as though something was trying to sound like him, but couldn't get it quite right. He stopped the recording and stared at the ceiling. "That room," he whispered. "Something's in that room." That afternoon, Daniel called in a local paranormal investigator named Jerry, who specialized in sound phenomena. He arrived with bulky recording equipment, electromagnetic meters, and a calmness Daniel envied. "Sometimes," Jerry said, setting up the recorder in the hallway, "a place holds on to echoes. The dead mimic what they hear to get attention." Daniel frowned. "But why my voice?" Jerry didn't answer. He just turned on the recorder. That night, they all stayed awake. The only light came from the dim orange glow of the hallway lamp. Hours passed until the recorder clicked 08 a.m. The hallway temperature dropped. The air shimmered, thick and cold, their breath visible in the dark. Then the voice came again. "Daniel." But this time they heard it with their own ears, not through the device. It came from the end of the hallway. Jerry's recorder lights blinked wildly. "It's responding," he whispered. "Keep calm." The voice repeated, clearer now, crawling through the walls. "Daniel, come here." Daniel's hands shook. "That's my voice." Jerry stepped forward. "Where are you?" he said aloud. A pause. Then the sound of two Daniels speaking at once. "I'm here." The lights flickered, bulbs popping one by one. Emma screamed as the spare bedroom door creaked open on its own. Daniel grabbed Jerry's flashlight and shone it inside. The beam caught something carved into the wooden floor, hundreds of overlapping scratches forming crude words. "He called me first." Jerry stumbled backward. What the hell is that supposed to mean? Before Daniel could reply, the flashlight dimmed, and from within the room came a deep, guttural whisper that made their skin crawl. "Daniel, don't stop talking. I need your voice." The temperature plunged. The recorder shrieked with distorted feedback, as if something massive had brushed past it. Jerry yelled, "Get out of the house!" But the hallway door slammed shut behind them. The last thing Daniel remembered before everything went dark was hearing his own laughter echoing from the walls, the same tone, the same rhythm. Only it wasn't him. At sunrise, Emma found him on the floor near the recorder, unconscious but breathing. Jerry was gone. The equipment lay shattered. The recorder still blinked red. She pressed play. A long hiss filled the room, then a voice. Daniel's voice whispered softly, "Don't let him back in." Then, another voice layered beneath it, deeper, mocking, perfectly synchronized. Too late. The night after Jerry disappeared, the house was unnervingly still. Daniel couldn't bring himself to leave. Emma begged him to, but something inside him, maybe pride, maybe madness, wouldn't let go. The wall seemed to hum softly, alive with a sound just beyond hearing. That evening, as rain lashed the windows, Daniel set the recorder back on the table. His hands shook. "I just want to know what it wants," he whispered. Emma was crying now. "It's not something you can understand, Daniel. Please, we need to go." He didn't answer. He pressed record. Thunder cracked in the distance, shaking the old Texas house. The lights flickered, and the familiar static filled the room like a pulse. Daniel stared down the hallway at the door that always seemed open now, no matter how many times they closed it. And then, from the dark, it spoke. "Daniel." He froze. But this time the voice wasn't coming from far away. It was coming from his own mouth. His lips trembled, opening without his control, and that same voice, his voice, but hollow, warped, whispered through him. "You invited me." Emma screamed, backing away. "Daniel, stop!" He fell to his knees, clutching his head, shaking violently as the recorder on the table captured everything. The static rose into a low growl that rattled the windows. "Let me see." The voice hissed through him. "Let me in." The air grew thick, suffocating. The lights went out. Emma grabbed the flashlight and pointed it toward the hallway and gasped. There, standing in the doorway, was Daniel, or rather something that looked like him. It was taller, its skin pale and stretched thin, eyes completely black. It smiled with his teeth. The real Daniel twitched on the floor as the figure in the doorway tilted its head. "I told you," it said in his voice, smooth and steady. "You shouldn't have answered." Emma ran for the door, but it slammed shut on its own. Every picture, a frame on the wall began to shake. Glass cracking one by one. The sound was deafening. The figure stepped forward. The real Daniel screamed not words, just a guttural cry of agony as the two shadows on the wall merged. The taller one wrapped around him like smoke until there was only one shape left. Then silence. When the police arrived the next morning, they found Emma outside on the porch, trembling, barefoot, staring at the house. She couldn't speak. Inside, the walls were covered with dozens of handprints smeared in dust, pressed from the inside. The recorder still blinked red. One of the officers pressed play. Static. Breathing. Then Daniel's voice. "Emma, if you hear this, it's not me in there." And just before the tape cut off, another voice identical to Daniel's whispered over it, almost laughing. She can't tell the difference. The recording ends there. The house has been empty ever since, but neighbors claim they still hear someone talking inside on stormy nights. A man's voice, soft, familiar, calling from room to room. "Daniel." And sometimes it answers back. If you thought this story was terrifying, the next one will make you question every sound in your home. hit subscribe, and don't turn off the lights tonight.